breakthrough and key trends, right? Always an area that engineers, designers are excited about. So let's see if we can talk to that a little bit. What are some of the breakthrough or key trends that come to mind in addition to what we've talked about, or maybe you want to highlight something we've already touched on?
Many of the breakthroughs, I feel like we've discussed a lot about them, just how we are transitioning our buildings to making them smart buildings. Even the idea of grid interactive buildings, as we're cleaning the grid, how do we create grid interactive buildings? I think that that's something that people are really looking towards. And when you think about our existing building stock and the desire to bring more renewable energy onto the grid, we have to start thinking about our buildings as energy generators. I think that that's going to be something that will lead us forward, and maybe people will go beyond net zero into net positive. The other, I would say, breakthrough areas when people are considering the whole net zero carbon aspect of their buildings, really thinking about the embodied carbon of everything they're doing within their building, whether it's an existing building or a retrofit project. And that brings in a whole new world of the products and supply chain. And I think that that's going to be absolutely critical as we move forward. One thing I am really excited about, I had mentioned our partnership with the United Nations. The UN Economic Commission for Europe is leading a team in a project that's being funded by the German government out of their International Climate Initiative, all focused on the products and supply chain we need to achieve high performance buildings, because we actually won't get there to this idea of near zero without the products and supply chain that we need. And so we realize that's a global need, and GBA is really excited to be part of that project that's kicking off. And companies like Danfoss are critical to that solution. So those are some of the breakthroughs. The other thing I think is on data. People are realizing the performance of the data in their building and how to understand it better, and then how do you interact with the building and the occupants because of that data and continue to drive investment. So those are some of the things I was thinking about.
Vic?
I think we have discussed quite a bit, I would say, these new breakthrough trends. I think there are a couple of them which I will add on what Jenna said. One of them is, I would say, certifications, because I think certifications goes a long way in helping certify a building in their ability to achieve net zero emissions. And I think there's a work a lot of associations are doing, I would say, in certifying. But other than that, I would say the carbon strategies, the utility, I would say, management, facility management, waste management. I think there's a lot of areas in the building that can contribute towards reducing the energy footprint, reducing the carbon footprint, and I think there's a lot of technology and solutions already available, which could be harnessed and could be leveraged to really achieve that, I would say, net zero. So I think we have discussed quite a bit, but there are also a lot of them also available on top of that, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and maybe it's not new technologies, but it's certainly technology that's being applied a lot more. We see a lot more use and reuse of waste heat. We're so used to seeing chillers or rooftops, cooling towers, just ejecting all this hot air into the atmosphere, right? And that hot air is energy, right? And so we're just taking the heat out of the building and just dumping it into the atmosphere. And while it's always been the technology has always been there, it's just becoming a lot more, I think, financially viable, where we can do a lot more waste heat recovery, especially in places like hotels, hospitals, airports, places that have a constant demand for hot water. We can capture that heat, reuse it, and save the needs to do any kind of hot water heating. Sector coupling is also something we see a lot about, and that's maybe connecting some buildings together and again, it's about moving energy to where it needs to be, right? Where is it generated, right? Maybe your condenser on the chiller or whatever it is, and where can we use that energy? So it's, I think, really important to look what we can do with that energy rather than just dumping it up into the atmosphere. And we're seeing a bit of an uptick too, maybe not so much in the U.S. yet, but certainly in Europe on district energy stations. So, right, it's kind of about your thermal economies of scale. building big systems, maybe campus wide or apartment complex wide, and doing all of your heating and cooling in one location and then distributing it throughout the building. And we're able to have systems run much more efficiently that way. And then I think we've talked mostly about commercial buildings now, but on the residential side, there's also a lot moving. Heat pumps becoming more and more important. We're typically in that 70-30 range, air conditioning to heat pumps, but we see that ratio on residents ticking up. More and more people moving to heat pumps in the residential sector. We have the cold climate heat pump challenge where we're getting heat pumps that are running down to 100% capacity at 5 degrees ambient. So I think there's a lot of technology moving out there. And then when it comes to smarts, it really, I think, starts, right? We're used to seeing things on the B2C side of things, right? We all have our smartphone and we can talk to our our thermostats and do that kind of stuff in the house. And that's really where the technology started, right? So we're able to see what our home is doing, right? Our HVAC system for sure. And these days you can check your refrigerator and stove and dishwasher and so on. And that technology, we've kind of become accustomed to it, right? And if I can see what my air conditioning is doing at home, why can't I check what's doing in the office? So that move to smarts, I think, was driven a lot by the residential side, and now we see that coming commercial as well.